Hello. A little while back I did an art haul video, and one of the things that I'd bought was a Sizzix die cutter. And a few people asked if I'd do a video on die cutting and what that involves, so I thought I'd do that today. This is the die cutter that I bought at the time. It's from Sizzix, and what it is are blades encased in foam. And when you put it through a roller machine with some cardboard, it presses out these shapes. So the cutting tools are called dies, and the shapes are called die cuts. So I'll show you my die cutting machine and some of the different kinds of dies that are available. I used to be on the design team for a couple of different companies, so I've made quite a few cards over the years. This was a magazine that I did an article for. And then this was a book from Sizzix, which is one of the main die cut companies. And I made quite a few cards in this book. So this is my very scruffy old die cutting machine, and it's a Sizzix Bigshot. And it has this space here, which has got rollers top and bottom. And when you turn this handle, it moves the rollers and you can create the pressure to cut things out with the dies. So I've got a painting that I was just mucking around with the other night. I just was painting different shapes and then went over with white acrylic pen. So I'll just use this to show the dies at work. And this is the little vases one. Its proper name is Crockery. The Sizzix Crockery Bigz die. So I'll cut out a bit of this to roughly the right shape and put it face down against where the blades are. And then you have these cutting pads. Mine are super old and crusty looking now. But you just sandwich the die cutter, or the die, and the paper. And there are all the little vases that it's made. And then you've got the outline as well. I got into die cutting about 17 or 18 years ago now. And when I started, Sizzix was the only company that I'd heard of. And this is what the original machine looked like. So you have a moving platform and you have to put the die under there. And this is what the original dies used to look like. So I've got a couple of eggs there. Oops. And you put it on the platform, put it under, and then you'd have to kind of manually press down like that. And if it's wider than this, then you'd have to do it in a few different sections. And then there's my little eggs. I still keep this machine because it's quite good for using with embossing folders. So I've got this old metal magnetic converter that clips in and makes a smaller space. And these are my embossing folders. So I've got some cardboard. I put it inside the embossing folder. And then I just squeeze down. With that, and I've got my embossed pattern then. So you can use these with the rolling type machines, but I just prefer these with the old press machine, which is why I've kept this one. So I still do die cutting from time to time, and I use this ancient ice cream die to make these little ice cream cards. I organised an activity where we had an ice cream van come and everyone could have a free ice cream. So I'd made these little kind of tickets to give to everyone. in exchange for their free ice cream. I mainly used to work with interactive dies though, and I spent a few years working with Karen Burniston. She's an amazing designer who is kind of like the queen of the original interactive dies. So this is one of hers, and it just looks like a simple panel when it's cut out. But when you join them together and add more elements, you can get these really interesting cards. So it folds down completely flat. Well, flat enough to post. And then you can decorate the panels how you like. I'll link to Karen's current website down below in the description box. But over the years, she's come up with hundreds of amazing die designs, which have been great fun, with pop-up and all kinds of other interactive card die designs. Another designer of dies that I really like is Tim Holtz. And dies come in all different shapes and sizes nowadays. And these fatter ones are kind of going out of style, but this is one of the really large old ones. And I've got larger cutting pads. So you'd sandwich your cardboard in there and roll that through. So this is a basic house die. And this has some accessories that go with it. And this is a little surf shack model that I made with these two dies. Actually, I think there was another die that cut the roof shingles as well. And I just added on some moss around it. Nowadays, dies tend to be a lot thinner. And most of them look more like this. So very thin metal dies, which don't have as sharp cutting edges. They work well on cardboard and paper, but not so well on thicker materials like mount board or fabric and things, which the older dies do, and which is why I still hang on to them. But you can get a lot more intricate shapes with this style of die. So here's a little fence one. This is one of Karen Burniston's dies. And this is a card that I made using them. So I used the shape just for the outside of the card. But then this thing makes a platform. So inside the card, oops, okay, it's got bent. So here's the platform part. And then I used all these little decorator dies for different aspects of the card. And again, that folds pretty flat to be able to be posted. So this is the kind of thing that I enjoyed making for a lot of years. I don't have many cards to hand at the moment, but these are another couple. So these are just using quite basic shapes. And you can put together nice bold cards pretty simply. So they can be as simple and as complicated as you like. Here's a pop-up one that I did. It's got all sorts of elements in it. I kind of was known for always adding bunting to my cards. When we moved into this house a few years ago, we inherited these big IKEA units, which I've kept and have become my craft storage units. So this is my shelf for the thin metal dies. And I've got like a coloured section for each category of dies. So I think that's Christmas dies, and card based dies. So that makes like a nice oval pop-up card. And then I've got like the character picture dies. And I think these are my word and letter dies. That Looks like various happy birthday ones in there. And then I'm a very big fan of patterned paper. So I've got a couple of shelves of like scrapbooking paper pads and things. But also in this unit were some drawers, I guess for DVDs or CDs or something. But they perfectly fit my dies in. And then I've got another one here with some of the older dies in. There have been a few other die designs as well of different thicknesses. So these were called the Sizzlets, and they're not as thin as the metal ones, like the thin metal ones, and obviously not as fat as these big kind of steel blade ones. And this is the platform to get it to the right height when it's run through the rolling machine. It's a well-used one. So over the years I accumulated a lot of dies which I was given when I was on the design teams, and I've just kept my most favourites, even though that's quite a lot. So I got my die cutting stuff out today because I need to update a notice board for a group that I'm in, and I'm just going to cut out some of these large letters for the titles and things on the board. But I do really like the idea of combining watercolours with die cut shapes, and it's something I want to explore more in the future. I did one video where I used some floral watercolours that I painted to make Easter cards, so I'll link to that below as well. I hope that was interesting for some of you anyway, and thanks so much for watching as ever. Bye!